The myth of Hercules, 12 labors that turned a man into a legend. The whole world knows his name. His strength is glorified in myths. His path is not just a story of a hero, but a great drama of struggle with himself, gods and monsters. He is not infallible. He suffered, made mistakes, lost everything, but rose again. He is Hercules. But you do not know the whole truth. Behind his exploits are hidden the secrets of ancient cults, messages from the gods and cruel trials, invented not for glory, but to break him forever. Who was behind these trials? Why did he have to go through humiliation, slavery, murder, and exile? And was he just a tool in the hands of the gods who feared his strength? In this video, we will analyze all 12 labors of Hercules, but not just as a list of adventures. We will dive into deep symbolism, hidden meanings, and forgotten details that are not told in school textbooks. You will learn why every feat is a step not only to glory, but also to purification, pain, and superhuman transformation. This is not just a myth. It is an archetype of strength, sacrifice, and immortality that still lives in culture, literature, cinema, and in ourselves. Are you ready to find out why Hercules became more than a hero? Then don't look away. What follows is legendary. Before Hercules became a hero, his life was shattered. Born from a mortal woman, Alcmene, and Zeus, he was drawn into a divine war from the very beginning. Hera could not forgive Zeus for betraying her, and turned all her anger on the innocent child. She tried to kill the baby with snakes, but Hercules strangled them with his own hands while he was still in the cradle. This was the beginning of the story of a mortal destined to surpass the gods. Hercules grew up mighty, unrivaled in strength, but fate was in no hurry to reward him with happiness. In a fit of madness, induced by the same Hera, he killed his own children. This act was not just a tragedy. It became a punishment that tore the hero's soul apart. And to atone for his guilt, the Delphic oracle decreed, Hercules must serve his cousin Eurystheus, a pitiful and envious king, and perform 12 impossible tasks. These feats are not only physical tests. They are a ritual of purification, the transformation of a person into something more than a person. Each task is not just a battle with a monster, it is a test of the inner nature, a battle with fears, with vices, and with one's past. We set out on a journey to follow him. Feat after feat, legend after legend, but behind each of them is a secret, a symbol, an archetype. Labor 1, the Nemean lion, the beginning of the journey and the first challenge to death. The first task that Eurystheus gave Hercules was not accidental. He wanted the hero to die at the very beginning. The king sent him to the Nemean Valley, where a lion lived, invulnerable to any weapon created by man. The beast was the offspring of ancient monsters and sowed fear in the surrounding area, destroying herds, tearing apart hunters, and leaving empty villages behind. But the Nemean lion is not just a beast. It is a symbol of the first shadow, the first true fear that a person must overcome in order to embark on the hero's path. It was invulnerable, and this is precisely its meaning. The hero could not take a sword, spear, or bow. He had to come within a breath of fear. Hercules explored the surrounding area, found the lion's lair with 2 exits, and blocked one of them to deprive the monster of an escape route. He entered the cave where darkness reigned and fought him hand to hand. It was a fight of strength and fury, but Hercules strangled the lion with his own hands, realizing for the first time that his strength surpassed the laws of mortals and the limitations of nature. Having skinned the slain beast, he realized that ordinary weapons would not cut it. Then he used the lion's own claws to tear off the invulnerable armor. From that day on, the skin of the Nemean lion became his armor, a symbol of the fact that he had gone through the first death and returned stronger. When he returned to Eurystheus, he was scared to the point of trembling. According to legend, the king ordered that Hercules should no longer be allowed to come to him, and from now on he should receive reports on his exploits from a bronze box, hiding like a coward behind the walls of the palace. But Hercules knew this was only the first step, and from now on, it will only be more difficult. Feat 2, Lernaean Hydra, battle with immortal evil. The second task was even more dangerous than the first. Eurystheus hoped that Hercules would not return alive. He sent the hero to the swamps of the Lernaean plain, where an ancient monster lived, the Hydra, the offspring of Typhon and Echidna, the monstrous progenitors of all fears. It had 9 heads, and each of them was poisonous. But the worst thing was that if you cut off one head, 2 new ones grew in its place. The Hydra is not just a monster. It is an archetype of endless inner evil, passions, addiction, pain, which cannot be gotten rid of with one blow. It is a symbol of the fact that the enemy inside you can be endlessly reborn if you fight him with the wrong methods. Hercules arrived in a chariot with his faithful companion, Aeolus, his nephew and charioteer. When he reached the lair of the Hydra, the battle began. At first he rained blows on it with a club, then he began to chop off heads with a sword. But the monster only grew stronger. In place of 1 head, 2 grew. The swamps were filled with poison. The breath of the Hydra poisoned the air. The ground under his feet groaned with a curse. And then Hercules understood. This evil cannot be defeated by force. He came up with another way. With the help of Aeolus, they lit torches, and each time Hercules chopped off a head, Aeolus cauterized the neck with fire, preventing a new one from growing. It was a union of mind and determination, trust and fire. But the last, central head of the Hydra was immortal. Hercules chopped it off, buried it under a heavy boulder, and collected the poisonous blood in a quiver. After all, even if the enemy is strong, his strength can become a weapon. From that day on, Hercules soaked his arrows with the Hydra's poison, making them deadly for any creature. However, Eurystheus, having learned that Hercules had won with the help of Aeolus, refused to count the feat. He was afraid not only of the hero's strength, but also of the idea that a hero could rely on another. But Hercules did not need glory. He knew that the main enemy was not the monster, but the despair that followed it. The Hydra was defeated. But there were feats ahead, where the enemy would not only be the monster, but also the system itself. Fear, loneliness, and darkness. Labor 3. The Cyrenian Hind, a hunt where killing is not enough. After battles with monsters that smelled of death and poison, the next task seemed almost peaceful. Eurystheus ordered Hercules to catch the Cyrenian hind, an elegant golden-horned animal, a favorite of the goddess Artemis. But there was a catch. This feat could not be accomplished by force. The hind was sacred, and killing it meant incurring the wrath of the gods. According to legend, the Cyrenian hind lived in the mountains of Arcadia, moved faster than the wind, and did not touch the ground with its hooves. It shone with gold, was unattainable, and most importantly, belonged to the goddess hunter Artemis, who did not forgive those who touched her sacred things. Hercules set off on a journey that lasted a whole year. He pursued the doe from Arcadia to Thrace, through forests, hills, and rivers. It was not a battle, but a path of inner discipline, patience, persistence. Each time he approached, she slipped away. He could not hurt her. He had to prove himself worthy of the gods' trust, without breaking into rage, without looking for easy ways. And so, at dawn, at the foot of the river Ladon, when the doe slowed down, Hercules shot her with an arrow, but only slightly wounded, not killed. He approached, carefully tied her legs, and only then took her in his arms, as a sacred creature that could not be harmed. But on the way back, what he feared happened. Artemis appeared, angry that her animal was captured. Hercules knelt down and explained he did not want to harm. He was only following orders to atone for his guilt and cleanse himself. He asked the goddess for forgiveness, and she, touched by his honesty, allowed him to complete the feat on the condition that the doe be released unharmed. And so it happened. Hercules brought the doe to Eurystheus, but did not allow the king to take her, immediately releasing her into the forest before he could intervene. This feat was not a test of strength, but of control, respect, and diplomacy. For the first time, Hercules proved that he could obey the highest law, even when it went against human law. He became not only a hero, but also a man recognized by the gods. But this was followed by a test where he would not be required to be agile, but stubborn, cunning, and endurance. Labor 4. The Erymanthian Boar, Winter's Fury and Proof of Strength Without Blood. The next task was another fight, but this time not with a monster from myth, but with nature in its wildest and most furious form. Eurystheus ordered Hercules to catch the Erymanthian boar, a wild beast from the Erymanthian mountains that destroyed villages, trampled fields, and killed people. But Hercules was not to kill it. He was to bring it back alive. The boar was a monster, A massive body, fangs like daggers, and blind, destructive force. But the real danger lay beyond it. Its lair was in the icy mountains, where blizzards could tear flesh, and every step on a snowy slope could be the last. Hercules went where no one dared, where the wind howled like a beast and the very earth betrayed underfoot. On the way to the mountains, he visited his friend Pholus, a wise centaur. He treated him to a drink, but by mistake opened a vessel with divine wine, which belonged to all centaurs. Its aroma attracted other centaurs, and a battle began, full of pain and accidents. In this skirmish, the centaur Chiron, the immortal teacher of heroes, was fatally wounded by tragic accident. Even during his exploits, Hercules involuntarily caused pain, not because he wanted to, but because such is the path of strength. In the mountains, he finally finds a boar, a giant, tearing apart everything that gets in its way. But Hercules does not fight. He exhausts the beast, drives it through the snow, makes it get stuck in snowdrifts. He does not shed blood. He shows that strength is not always destruction, but the ability to subdue rage without destroying. He ties the boar with a chain and drags it down the mountains, through snowstorms and icy rocks. When he brings it to Eurystheus, he hides in a barrel in horror, realizing that Hercules can defeat any madness, any element, and not lose control. With this feat, Hercules proves that true strength lies in the ability to restrain one's rage. Not only does a destroyer live inside him, a master of balance between instinct and reason is maturing inside him. But a test lies ahead, in which Hercules will have to descend into the very darkness of civilization, into the realm of dirt, deception, and disgust. There will be no monsters there, only oblivion and decay, but it is there that he will need to cleanse not the battlefield, but the heart of the world. Labor 5. Augean Stables, the filth that hides the truth. Eurystheus's next task did not seem heroic. There were no monsters, poisoned swamps, or bloody fangs here. And yet it was one of the most humiliating and symbolic labors of Hercules. He had to clean the stables of King Augeas, not just any stables, but a place where filth had accumulated for decades, filling up with the filth of not only animals, but also human greed. King Augeas owned thousands of bulls, horses, and mules. His herds were considered the greatest in Greece, but his stables had not been cleaned for over 30 years. Manure and stench covered the ground in layers many meters deep. It was a kingdom of desolation, a symbol of the fact that power based on greed always accumulates rot. Not external, but moral. Hercules was given neither tools nor servants. The task was obviously humiliating, to put the hero in the position of a slave, to make him not fight, but shovel shit. But this is where Hercules showed wisdom, not strength. He surveyed the area, and instead of picking up a shovel, he opened passages in the walls and directed the channels of 2 rivers, the Alpheus and the Peneus, right through the stables. The streams of water washed away everything in one day, cleansing not only the land, but also the very idea of the feet. That sometimes, in order to cleanse, you need to change the course of things. But, as before, this feat was followed by betrayal. Augeas promised a reward, 1/10 of the herd, but refused to pay, claiming that Hercules was only following Eurystheus's orders. When Hercules demanded justice, he was thrown out. And then he promised to return, not as a servant, but as a judge. Later, he kept his word. He will come with an army, punish the lie, and put the son of Augeas, the just Phyleus, on the throne, restoring the balance. Because for Hercules, honor was more important than strength, and a word was stronger than a hammer. This feat showed that not every victory requires blood. Sometimes a hero is someone who can find a way, change the flow, and cleanse the very essence of the world, even if this whole world is mired in mud. But then the path again leads to weapons. In the next test, Hercules will go to wild lands, where cannibals and monstrous birds live, and where an Arcadian horror on 6 legs awaits him. Labor 6. Stephalian birds fighting the sky that has become enemy. Eurystheus' next task takes Hercules into the wild, impassable swamps of Lake Stephalion, a place where nature itself seemed cursed. There were no walls, towers, or lairs. There was no arena in which to fight. There was the sky, and from it came death. The Stephalian birds were not just predators. According to myth, they were the offspring of the god of war Ares, or even ancient demonic forces. They were the size of a man, with iron feathers that fell from the sky like blades, tearing flesh and earth. Their cry was a deafening weapon, and the air above the lake was a constant trap, full of metal, pain, and fear. People did not come near the lake. Animals disappeared. It was the kingdom of ringing death. Hercules arrived there, but could not even come close. The birds hid in the thickets, in the bushes, under the rotten bark of the trees, and every step brought a squall of iron rain. Neither sword nor club could defeat an enemy who could not be caught on the ground. And then the goddess Athena gave Hercules bronze rattles, forged by Hephaestus himself. These instruments were not weapons, but sound, rhythm, resonance, capable of destroying the order of the flock. He climbed the hill, struck the rattles, and the air shook. In panic, the birds soared into the sky, and only then was Hercules able to strike. He pulled the bowstring, and arrows smeared with the poison of the Lernaean hydra broke the sky. The birds fell one after another. Fragments of wings and claws pierced the ground. Sparks ricocheted across the surface of the water. The rest flew away, disappearing into the distant sky, leaving the lands of Arcadia forever. But this feat was not just a hunt. It was a battle with a threat that cannot be grasped by hands, with an enemy that comes from above, quietly, quickly, from above. And Hercules won not only by force, he won by sound, by idea, by an alliance with the gods. So he learned that not every enemy comes to the face, and that sometimes a hero must silence the darkness before he can strike it. But ahead was an enemy who had a voice and a mouth and a mind. The one who knew what it was to drive, to tear, to kill, and was the very shadow of the forest. Labor 7. The Cretan Bull, Fury of the Elements and Taming Chaos. The next test takes Hercules overseas, to the island of Crete, where the legendary King Minos rules. His lands are rich, his temples rise to the sky, but over everything hangs a shadow that no one dares to name. This shadow is the Cretan Bull, an ancient creature sent by Poseidon but rejected by people. According to legend, Poseidon gave Minos a sacred bull to sacrifice, as a sign of submission to the gods. But Minos admired the beauty of the beast and hid it, leaving it alive, and placed another on the altar. This was a violation of the oath, a challenge to the sea, and the curse was inevitable. The bull went mad. Its roar resembled an earthquake. It trampled fields, destroyed houses, and destroyed people. His breath was hot, and his eyes glowed like flames. But the darkest thing is that it was from this bull that the Minotaur was born. A creature with the body of a man and the head of a beast, doomed to the labyrinth and the eternal thirst for blood. The Cretan bull became the progenitor of a monstrous chaos, from which nothing but horror is born. Hercules had to not kill the bull, but catch it alive and bring it to Eurystheus. But how to seize something that tears the earth apart like a storm and rushes through the crowd like an earthquake? They did not expect him in Crete. Everyone was afraid. No one wanted to approach the pastures where the bull tore everything to shreds. And Hercules went alone, without weapons, only with a rope, a leather collar, and silent determination. He did not rush into the attack. He waited. He studied. He watched the beast until he understood its rhythm, where it breaks and where it searches, when he strikes and when he rests. When the bull rushed at him, Hercules dodged, grabbed him by the horns, leaned on him with all his body, and a titanic struggle began, where it was decided, who will lead, a man or the elements? Dust rose like a storm, hooves dug stones, a roar shook the air. But Hercules did not let go. Squeezing the horns, he bent the beast to the ground, suppressed the rage but did not kill. He showed that even pure chaos can be subdued, if not destroyed, but held. He led the bull, tied but alive, across the sea. And when Eurystheus saw him, he hid again in horror. After all, Hercules was leading not just an animal, he was leading the personification of indomitable force, defeated without blood. But with each feat the path became darker. Ahead lay human abysses, golden traps, unruly horses, and even Hades himself. Labor 8. Diomedes' horses, fury that devours the living now. Hercules' path leads to the land of Thrace, wild, cruel, and soaked in blood. Here ruled Diomedes, a barbarian king, son of Ares, the god of war. His wealth was not temples, not gold, but 4 horses, the likes of which the whole world had never seen. They were huge, strong, ferocious, but most importantly, they were fed human flesh. They were living symbols of gluttony, destruction, and madness that could not be sated. Their neighing sounded like the cry of prisoners, and their eyes burned with scarlet fury. The chains that held them were forged from steel, and the servants who served them disappeared one after another, because the horses killed those who lost their vigilance and devoured them alive. Hercules arrived there with a detachment of companions, but Thrace met them with swords. To get to the horses, it was necessary to defeat Diomedes' warriors, and the king himself was not going to surrender. The battle began, bloody, piercing like a warrior with a god. Hercules defeated Diomedes, depriving the dictator of the land, and then everything changed. He threw the very body of Diomedes to his own beast, and the horses, having sensed the taste of their master, were sated for the first time. At that moment they fell silent. They did not neigh, did not rush about, did not break free. The hunger generated by insatiable power and fear was quenched by the sacrifice of the executioner himself. Hercules threw on the chains and led the horses to the sea. But this feat is not just about the bridle. This is a story about the dark side of the will, about how when power feeds monsters, they always turn against the master. The gods themselves were silent, but the legends said the horses became quieter, as if fear of someone stronger than their nature had settled in them for the first time. Eurystheus, as always, was amazed, but not happy. He did not see a hero in Hercules. He saw a threat that was approaching with each return, and Hercules was no longer the one who had started the journey. He was not only winning, he was transforming. He was becoming neither a man nor a god, but something in between. A symbol of strength that does not wait for approval. But the next task would send him to the kingdom of female warriors, to the lands of the Amazons, where he would be met not by the fury of beasts, but by the cold blade of Queen Hippolyta. Feat 9. The Amazon Belt, Honor, Temptation, and the Price of Deception. This time the test was neither bestial nor divine. It was human, but all the more dangerous. Eurystheus demanded that Hercules obtain the belt of Hippolyta, the queen of the Amazons. This belt was not an ornament. It was a gift from Ares, the god of war, a symbol of absolute power and military prowess. The belt did not simply fasten clothes. It gave the right to command a people of female warriors created not to obey. The Amazons lived far away beyond the seas in the east, where even men had no right to set foot on their land without permission. They were trained from childhood. A bow, a sword, a horse. It was an extension of their body. They did not obey the gods' fathers. They worshipped Artemis and lived by their own laws. Hercules arrived there not with a sword but with a speech. He met Hippolyta, and to his surprise, she did not rush into battle. Rumors of Hercules' exploits reached the Amazons. The queen received him with respect, listened to his request, and agreed to give up the belt voluntarily. A respect based on strength, not fear, arose between them. This could have been a feat accomplished without bloodshed. But the story does not end there. Hera, the eternally envious, intervened again. She spread a rumor among the Amazons that Hercules had come in deception to kidnap their queen. The army took up arms, and a battle broke out that should not have happened. Heracles fought to the death. He did not want to kill, but he defended himself. In the chaos of the battle, Hippolyta died, according to one version, at the hand of Hercules, according to another, from a treacherous blow to the back. The belt was taken, but the price was too high. It was a feat after which Hercules did not return the same. He got what he wanted, but the honor he had almost touched was lost. Strength is there, victory is there. But behind it is emptiness. It became a reminder. The true enemy can hide not in armor, but in hearing, in fear, in envy, in a word spoken at the right time. And yet the journey is not over. Even further, beyond the edge of the world, far from all lands, Hercules must go to Geryon, a creature with 3 bodies and a dog with 2 heads. And his task is to steal a herd that cannot be led away by man. Labor 10. Geryon's cows, journey beyond the horizon and battle with 3 deaths. Hercules' 10th task was like an impossible fairy tale. He had to go to the edge of the world, to where, according to ancient beliefs, the sun sets in the ocean, and where Geryon lives, a creature with 3 bodies, 3 souls and 1 will, the owner of a sacred herd. These cows were a divine gift, protected not only by monstrous strength, but also by the very structure of the world. The road was long and full of secrets. Hercules crossed the deserts of Libya, and when he was exhausted by the heat, he shot an arrow into the sun itself, demanding coolness from Helios. And the god, not in anger but in admiration, gave him a golden cup on which he could sail across the ocean, like in a boat, to the edge of the western world. On the shore of Erythea, an island beyond the land, Hercules was met by the two-headed dog Orthus, another child of Typhon, and the shepherd Eurytion, guardian of the herd. The hero did not enter into lengthy negotiations. Orthus died quickly and silently. Eurytion fell next. All that remained was to meet Geryon himself. Geryon was not just an enemy. His three bodies were a symbol of a triple threat, three forces in one being: reason, rage, and magic. They moved in sync, wielding 3 spears and 3 shields. Hercules, who stood against him, fought as if against 3, but struck as one. He released an arrow soaked in the venom of the Lernaean Hydra and pierced all 3 hearts with one shot, ending the life of the one who seemed incapable of death. Then he gathered the herd, and the way back was no less dangerous. Mountains, rivers, thieves, and the armies of kings tried to take away the sacred cows. On this path, according to legend, Hercules erected the Pillars of Hercules, the boundaries between the known and unknown worlds, later called Gibraltar. When he brought the herd to Eurystheus, he again refused to count the feet. He said that Hercules struck from an ambush, not in a fair fight. But everyone knew the truth. The hero went beyond the world, defeated the trinity of death, and returned, himself, alive, with the spoils. But the trials were not over yet. Eurystheus, eager to humiliate Hercules, sent him to the kingdom of the dead, not to the edge of the world, but beyond it. Labor 11. Cerberus, descent into Hades and return from the timeless world. 10 labors are behind us, and yet, driven by envy and fear, Eurystheus declared 2 of them invalid. And so the journey continues. Now he demands the impossible. Hercules must descend into the underworld, into the kingdom of the dead, and bring Cerberus, the 3-headed dog of Hades, guardian of the border between life and death. This is not just a challenge. This is a direct threat to the balance of the world. Cerberus is not just a beast. He is the guardian of the transition, the one who does not let the living in and does not let the dead out. His breath poisons the air, his bite is the end, and his third eye sees even those fears that you hide from yourself. Hercules sets out on a journey that heroes are not taught. He does not take weapons, only determination and the knowledge that there may be no way back. Before entering Hades, he makes sacrifices, purifies his body, for even the god of death demands respect. Shadow by shadow, he passes through the dark plains of Asphodel, where silent souls roam. He meets the soul of Meleager, learns from the seer Tiresias the way to the palace of Hades, and in the deepest depths, he finds Persephone, the queen of the underworld. She recognizes Hercules, his path, his pain, his torment, and she walks before Hades, not with a plea, but with cold logic. If the hero is ready to carry the beast without a weapon, if it will not cause harm, let the test be allowed. Hades accepts the challenge. Hercules is allowed to take Cerberus if he agrees to be taken out by force, but not violence. And then the guard appears. 3 heads, black fur, claws of shadow, and eyes full of the wrath of eternity. Hercules rushes into battle without a sword. He embraces Cerberus with his hands, endures the bite, the claws, the poison, and does not let go until the beast roars not from anger, but from recognition of strength. He did not defeat Cerberus. He withstood his fury without breaking. This was a feat not of power, but of will. And so Hercules leads Cerberus into the world of the living. Eurystheus loses his mind from fear, orders the beast to be returned immediately. Hercules does so. He does not destroy the order. He proves that he can touch death itself and not be destroyed. This was not just a feat. It was a recognition of the world. Hercules went through death and returned whole. But there was still one more step ahead, the last one. A test not of the body but of the soul, driven to the extreme. Feat 12. Apples of the Hesperides. The path to immortality and deceiving the Titan himself. The final task. Not a fight, not a catch, not a purification, but a search for that which itself hides from mortal sight. Eurystheus demands that Hercules bring golden apples from the garden of the Hesperides, sacred fruits given by the gods that grow at the edge of the world, in a garden guarded by the daughters of the night and dragons. These apples are not just decoration, they symbolize immortality, divine harmony, and eternal strength. The path was unknown. At first, Hercules looked for the garden itself, asking gods and mortals. He passed through North Africa, where he defeated Antaeus, the son of Gaia, who was invincible as long as he touched the ground. Hercules lifted him into the air, tore him away from the source of power, and crushed him. He met Prometheus chained to a rock and freed him from eternal torment by killing Zeus' eagle. In gratitude, Prometheus opened the way to the garden and told him that only the Titan Atlas could get the apples without angering the goddesses. Hercules came to Atlas, the same Titan who held the sky on his shoulders. Atlas, exhausted, agreed to help, but on one condition: Hercules would temporarily take on his burden, the sky. The hero stood up under the weight of the world, leaned on its shoulders, and did not flinch. Atlas left and returned with the apples. But, feeling free, he decided to leave Hercules with the sky. He said, "I will take the apples to Eurystheus myself." Then Hercules, without losing his composure, pretended to agree, but asked, "Help me a little, hold the sky while I fix my cloak." Atlas stood back up, and Hercules left, holding the apples. He tricked the Titan, not out of malice, but because sometimes even a hero has the right to be cunning if he himself held the sky. Hercules brought the apples, but the gods did not allow Eurystheus to keep them. They were returned to the garden. Immortality cannot be stolen, it can only be touched. And Hercules touched, and he survived. This feat was not for the sake of a trophy, but for the sake of passing the last turn of the path without losing honor, intelligence, or strength. Thus ended the 12 labors. But a legend began, in which a man became more than a hero. Hercules went through monsters, gods, death, deception, and suffering. He did not become a god immediately, but he became the one to whom the gods opened the doors. Later, after the tragedy, he will rise to Olympus, become immortal, and sit at the same table with those who once challenged him. But that is another story. The story not of feats, but of transformation. The story of a man who went through everything and remained himself.